Shakespeare is renowned the world over for his plays and poetry. Scholars have studied them for centuries. Versions of his plays have been put on in playhouses around the world. And today, novels are written rewriting and rehashing his plot lines. The man was a genius at everything, including insults. I am sick when I look on thee. More of your conversation would infect my brain. Away, you starveling, you elf skin, you dry neat's tongue, you stockfish! Your brain is as dry as the remainder biscuit after voyage. And if those insults aren't enough for you, there's always his most famous, or perhaps infamous, stage direction, which can help you get out of any unwanted conversations you may have. The stage direction is exit, pursued by a bear. That was not an invitation. That was not an invitation. Hello, folks, and welcome to Shelf Improvement with the Hopkinton Public Library. I'm so glad that you're joining me today for poetry. April is National Poetry Month, and because we are a little short-staffed at the library right now, and I was here alone in the studio, I managed to snag a very special guest to talk with me about poetry. Welcome to the studio, Shakespeare. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me today. It is so nice to be in Hopkinton.
Are you sure that being the bard, you want to interview me about poetry and not the other way around?
I may be the bard, but it's your century now.
Okay, well, if you're sure, I guess. What's your first question?
What is poetry?
So poetry can be a lot of things. I'm sure that many of us who went to school in the 1900s remember reading poetry that rhymes. Many of us read some of your sonnets and some of your plays, which are or include poetry. Some of our local Massachusetts poets, folks like Sylvia Plath, Emily Dickinson, they all have rhyme schemes and meter and all of that. But modern poets are also doing poetry without a set meter or without rhyme schemes. Poetry is meant to invoke emotion. It's about humanity and what it means to be human. And much poetry, a lot of poetry has a sort of melodious quality to it. When you read it aloud, you kind of hear that. In fact, music with lyrics is also poetry. It's just poetry set to music. So poetry can be a lot of things.
Why is poetry so important?
So like I touched on, poetry is about humanity. It's about being human. It's about the experience of being human. And it's about that experience in a way that's meant to help pull you emotionally into that space with the author. So a lot of poetry is very, very personal. A lot of poetry focuses on one particular aspect of the human experience and really goes very deeply into that. And poetry is meant to help you feel and to give you the space to feel those emotions and those experiences that may be somewhat different from your own, but may have similarities to your own. And they're also a place where authors experiment very deeply with words, with how words can be used, with how phrases can be put together. And so poetry is also about expanding the breadth of the language, about seeing what new types of things can be done with the words that we're given.
So April's National Poetry Month. What would you recommend to be a good read for people?
So poetry can sometimes be difficult for folks to approach. People may look at, like 7 or 10 lines and they rhyme and like, what is going on here? I don't understand what this is. Well, one of the top things that you can do is you can read it aloud to yourself or read it aloud to a group of friends. Oftentimes poetry is meant to be read aloud. Like, for example, your great works, of course, are plays. I'm sure that many of us who read your plays in grade school, remember reading them aloud as a class with everybody assigned a role, and that helps us to understand them. You can do exactly the same thing with poetry from nowadays. In fact, many modern poets have recordings of themselves reading their work online, and so if you're reading a poem and you're having a little bit of trouble with it, watching it may be a way to engage with that and see the way that the author expresses themselves while reading those lines. You can also start with some shorter poetry. So, for example, Joy Harjo is a modern author. She was the Poet Laureate of the United States. She's a Native American author. She's also written prose and nonfiction. So she is someone who might be a little bit more approachable because she uses modern language. Or another poet like Amanda Gorman, who wrote the inaugural poem for Joe Biden, her The Hill We Climb. Of course, there are recordings of her reading that, so you can watch that. Or you can borrow it from the library, and it's a short little book. So it's very approachable, it's very short, it's very easy to get through. If you're looking for something that is maybe a little bit fun, poetry doesn't have to be serious, it can also be funny. I'm sure we're all familiar with Dr. Seuss. In fact, many children's picture books include poetry in them. And so that can be a way to kind of nudge your toe in, and since they're written for children, they're written to be, a little funny, a little approachable, very approachable, very understandable. So that's a fun way to kind of dip your toe in too. And then of course, the master.
Just one last question. What is online?
Are you folks ready for our thing of the month? We talked to our public health nurse, Simone, today, and our thing of the month is related to that. You may not be aware, but the second leading cause of lung cancer in the United States is radon, which is an odorless, tasteless, smellless gas, odorless, smellless, that can be found in basements across the United States. But it's particularly common here in Massachusetts. There is remediation that can be done to your home to reduce the amount of radon in your basements or lower levels, but you need to know about it first. The library has you covered. We have a radon detector, which you can put in your basement, leave it there for 2 weeks, and then it'll tell you what your levels are. You can compare that to the government's recommendations on radon levels and see whether your home needs a little assistance getting that out of there. For our special guest segment today, I have Simone, our public health nurse. Hello, Simone. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hello, Danielle. It's so nice to see you.
So, what is a public health nurse? What do you do?
Thank you for that question. So, public health is a range of topics, which I won't delve into every single one, but at the core, what our mission is the well-being, health, and safety of our community. So that looks a little different depending on the community you are residing in. But what we try to do is make sure that everyone has access, equal access to health care and the clinical services they need. We want to make sure that they have clean air and water and clean environment. We want to make sure that moms and babies are getting the maternal health care services they need. We want to make sure that we are checking and tracing all communicable diseases, especially vaccine preventable diseases, to keep our community safe. And finally, we want to ensure health promotion, however that may look. So a lot of our services cross over with youth and family services or with the library, senior services, but at the heart we are people, community oriented, and we look at the community as a whole, and we try to raise those that are, sort of left behind or slip through the cracks. We try to make sure that we are there to help maintain their health and safety and well-being as well.
Wow, so that is a huge topic.
Sorry.
And that's a lot. No, don't be sorry. That's a lot to do. So what does a day in the life look like for you? Like how do those big ideas and concepts translate into little tasks
Yes.
and little things?
So in a perfect world, there would probably be 3 or 4 of me for a town this size. But that being said, the way it looks, so in the morning I'm up, I'm checking emails, and there is a communicable disease registry that we check into every day. So for instance, if a case of chickenpox would come through, we are immediately identifying that and reaching out to ensure that, let's say it's a child, that the child has the care they need, and then secondly, we want to help make sure that no one else breaks out with that disease. So that might be prophylactic treatment if someone isn't caught up with their vaccines, or helping them connect with their medical provider. From that, there are, of course, a lot of oversight to keep our programs functioning and running. So we have free vaccines for children, and we also have a campaign to increase adult access to vaccine. We run a Healthy Brain initiative, and that is usually around like a health fair, and it's all about what can you do to promote your brain health. It's pretty much the same as the rest of your health. Then from there, let's say that I do keep regular hours in the senior center, and I do a lot of outreach and advocacy, I think. And right now, it seems to be that most of my advocacy and outreach is centered around our seniors, because they are the folks that seem to be having the most difficulties in this current environment. But depending on the time of year, it might be helping children that are new to town catch up on their vaccinations. It might be making a home visit and making sure that someone's safe. Hand in hand with the fire department, we have a community EMS program, and that program allows us to, through a combination of cooperation between all of our partners, the senior center, library, youth and family, fire, we can then reach out to those community members before they fall and break a hip, or before a fire breaks out in their house because their fire alarm was not functional, before if someone needs medication, before they run out of medication and have a life-altering event. So basically, in a perfect world, we would like to see, we believe in public health, that health is a right for everyone, and whatever we can do to foster that in our community, it's better for all of us.
And it's clear how passionate you are about this. So say somebody has a need, or knows someone who has a need, a healthcare need, or things that you can help with something, how can folks find you or get in touch with you to get the services and support that they need?
Thank you for asking that. So I think the best way is actually to email if you have access to email, and that email is S as in Simone, and then my last name, Carter, CARTER, at hopkintonma.gov. Additionally, they can call, if it's easier, folks can call the health department directly. I am not always in the office. Many times I am out and about in the community where I'm needed most. But that number is 508-497-9725. Also, you can like Hopkinton Nursing Department on Facebook and Instagram. One of these days, maybe a TikTok, but for now, yeah, I think those are the easiest ways to find out what's going on and get in touch.
Yeah, and your information is also on
It's
the town
on
website.
the town website.
If folks need help finding that, they can also come to the library. Librarians know how to find things.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. Public health is such a big topic. I hope that maybe someday you can come in and maybe talk about just
Like
one part of
section?
that.
Yep.
But for now, thank you for being here today. And,
Thank you. It was my
I will
pleasure.
See you around town. And now it's time to look ahead to what's on the horizon. Spring means National Poetry Month in April. The grass is finally starting to get green, if a little mushy, but it also means that for folks who are looking to get into college, it is SAT season. If you or someone in your family is looking to take the SAT, the library can help. First of all, we're a heckin' fantastic place to study. Come on down, grab a table. You can do some chilling with friends, by yourself, whatever. We are a fantastic place to do some of that. We also, though, have SAT books. These things are like gold, and we have a ton of them. So come grab one, grab a table, do some studying, and good luck on your SATs. The library offers so many great resources, including some that you may not see when you walk into the library. For example, Mingo. It's an app that you can install on your phone to learn languages while you're on the go. It even includes some like Shakespearean English. But soft. What light through yonder window breaks? 'Tis the east, and the library's free and accessible resources are the sun. Thank you so much for joining me on our episode about poetry. Now, we all know that the creative types can be unique. So I wanted to tell you about some pets that some poets have had in the past. For example, French poet Gérard de Nerval had a lobster that he liked to take on walks in Paris. And of course, one of our favorites, Lord Byron, had a bear. Not that bear, not that bear, not that bear.